This series is about outstanding architecture from around America. From stunning residential to public spaces to commercial. This is an architectural deep dive to uncover the incredible stories behind each design. Welcome to America by Design. Our ByDesign industry experts have selected innovative, inspiring and award-winning projects.
Platforms like America by Design bring architecture to people who might not otherwise see it. They become engaged, they become inspired, they want to visit places, and we really become connected. And I think that's the whole point of architecture and design, is to bring us all together.
Let's get started with our first project. Denver is one of those boom towns in the US. Everybody's moving here. And for urban edge neighbourhoods like Berkeley, there's a lot of this going on. Urban infill by developers, where maximising square foot and minimising costs is the game. But then there's projects like this. Now, Brooks, this is your house, and I'm going to say right from the beginning, it's kind of introverted, shall we say, from the street front.
It's certainly a fair observation. You know, I've lived in places that had a lot of kind of front street-facing glass, and I wanted something that felt a little bit more private from the street.
Okay, I bet you people are talking in the neighborhood.
You certainly get people that kind of stop by, take a look, and hear a lot. I wonder how they get any light in there.
That's a little bit what I'm thinking. From here, I can't see how you get light into the place.
Let's go take a look.
Well, okay, there's that question answered. Plenty of light.
As you can see, we're getting flooded with a ton of natural light here into the living dining space.
And quite the connection to the outdoors.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Chad, you're the architect. Take me through this place quickly.
Yeah, sure. So what we've designed for Brooks is a 2-bedroom house. Both of his bedrooms are upstairs, and that more or less functions as his private space. Downstairs we have, a kitchen, a dining room, and a living room.
Yeah.
And that space over there is his office.
And a super cool office at that. And what's going on here?
This here is Alan's nook.
Really? This was part of the design brief?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that makes this house unique for Brooks.
Yeah, this was intentionally designed for the dogs. Typically below the TV in the living room, you see a fireplace. We wanted a space that was out of the way for the dogs, so you're not tripping over their beds as you're circulating through the space. This is where Alan lives.
Okay, Alan, living the dream, mate. Now, Chad, I'm interested to know about this big move up here. What's going on? What's with the twist?
One of the things Brooks really wanted for this design was some really nice, usable outdoor space. Here in Colorado, what makes an outdoor space usable is one that's going to get a lot of sunlight. It's going to allow snow to melt in the winter months.
Ah, yeah. So what is the orientation here?
Okay, so that's the south, right? That's the east.
Uh-huh.
And so, the morning light's coming up from around there and it's passing over this side, towards the west.
Okay. I see what you've done. You've twisted everything to the south.
Yeah, exactly. In this design, we pushed the house towards the north side of the lot to get sunlight into this patio year round.
Okay, got it. This makes sense. Now, Brooks, it's just occurred to me that these trees were probably planted by you, I bet. They're on your property.
I did. So I'm actually a property developer by trade. So I wanted to design something that created privacy from what's here now, but also what's probably going to be here in the future. So the zoning in these neighborhoods, a lot of these single family houses are being replaced with very large side-by-side duplexes. So this space where we've got these trees growing was my way to keep that privacy, even if that's what happens next door.
Smart. And you've moved the fence this way, so you kind of compromised on the size of the courtyard.
Certainly lost some square footage out here, but I think the trade-off was well worth it.
So Brooks, this is your forever home. even for a property developer, that must change up the equation for you.
Yep, it was certainly a little bit of a different directive for Chad. We've got a lot of familiarity working together on a number of other projects, but I certainly wanted to give him a little bit more freedom in the design of this one.
Oh boy, Chad, it's not often that you get a client who talks like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a project like this, it's a major opportunity. In a neighborhood like this where, maybe 1 in 15 of the properties that get developed have that directive, you really cherish it as an architect.
The moment you can set yourself free from notions of overcapitalization and cost per square foot, that is when it gets interesting.
Designer Thomas Heatherwick brings together design, architecture, and urban planning that responds to questions and creates interesting places that spark emotion and celebrates humanity. Let's go meet him. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us at the ByDesign studio. We were planning to take a walk on Little Island, but the weather didn't cooperate. So thank you for being here.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I've had the chance over the last 2 decades to grow a team of co-creators who we work together and collaborate to think about the human experience, and that's our focus. And that, to me, stitches together an airport in Singapore, headquarters for Google, or an Olympic cauldron or a pier. They're all a family of things that you still need the same mindset to come to, is how will people feel?
Let's talk about Little Island. It certainly impacted an entire city. There is that wow the moment you arrive.
Well, I'm so happy that people feel that. I wondered what everyone was thinking as we were building it as well, thinking, what is that out in the water? It felt such an immense honor to have a chance to work with the site of Pier 54. Pier 54 was where the Titanic would have moored if it had got here. We never expected Little Island proposal that we made to happen. We weren't commissioned originally to design a new pier. It's quite a funny story because Little Island began as a brief to make a pavilion that would sit on a lump that was going to be built on the side of the West Side Highway. There was already a design, and so the walkway on the edge of the West Side Highway would get bigger and go in, and then they wanted a pavilion. When we thought about it and just thought, all that amazing civil engineering that's going to go into building something that technically is a pier, but will feel like just a bigger bit of the river walkway, it seemed to us that we were missing the fun of being on a pier is being over the water, not being on a bigger bit of the land. Forget building a pavilion, that could be amazing by itself, and just have gangplanks that go across to it. The emotion that you have of leaving behind Manhattan, and then you could look back at the West Side Highway and go to somewhere where your emotion felt you had made a transition. And that's why we lifted it up so you even go underneath. So there's a real sense of a threshold. We forget that the public are all experts at architecture. All our life, we're brought up in buildings. We all know about buildings. We've felt them all our lives, but we're not used to talking about them. So great leaders are ones who will treat emotion as a function and start talking like that.
Thanks to you, Thomas, and other courageous visionaries. And can I get a rain check on that walk on Little Island with you?
Let's do it when we've got a slightly sunnier day.
Oneline Studio is a project for the toughest client in the world, yourself. Imagine being an architect and designing your own office space. What they've done is had an economy of materials where it's like the Swiss Army knife of buildings. Everything is put in the space to do multiple functions. The best part is it's allowed a place for them to grow, which they have since opening their doors.
This design project in Greenwood Village, Colorado, is actually the architect's own design studio, and it's a masterclass in the use of materials.
I used to take walks through this area, and I noticed this parcel of land that was so narrow that nobody had built on it for over 40 years. And then we discovered that it was a nonprofit that owned it. We approached them and said, would you like to work with us, sell off this piece of land we can share? And they said yes. And so we developed this.
Ah, okay, so this was just scrubland before.
It was. And what we try to do is what we call a duality of uses, working with people to develop partnerships to work together, using materials that have more than one use at a time.
So this duality of uses idea, this became the theme of the project.
It is. It's something we strive for, whether it's native grasses that use little water, whether it's working with our nonprofit neighbor to support them and help them out, whether it's materials. We want each material to demonstrate that it can serve more than one purpose.
Now, Tim, these beams are ever present, but hey, you can tell me, did somebody muck up? Because they seem higgledy-piggledy.
You might think so, but actually they're intentionally based on the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is a pattern that you find in nature, and it was our intent that when people look from the inside, they would be framed views out to the gardens. And from the outside, they anchor the ground to the sky.
Doing two jobs.
Yes, and there's another job I want to show you on the inside.
Oh, Tim, what a beautiful work environment.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, what is the big idea here?
Well, the big idea is that we're on a long, narrow site. So it's like a line, and we stacked everybody vertically. We want them to see out to the gardens, into the trees around us. We lined up the structure of the steel with the glass joints so that way we don't have to have as many materials. Instead, we're using the SEDEV clips, and that's why it looks like it's so open. You don't see as many pieces and parts and frames.
And these desks, they got a story?
Well, yes, they do. Actually, we worked with Uplift Desks to customize the desktop, where these are reclaimed Douglas fir from a local school. It ties in perfectly.
And then over here?
Well, over here you have the core of the building, the kitchenette. We use porcelanosa for the countertops, for the cabinetry, and for the tile.
Okay, so Tim, to answer my own question, if I may, about what the big idea is, I think it's this, it's the embracing of nature.
That was a vision.
Now the big statement in here is all this timber, and this is your work.
It is, yeah. My team created all that mass timber. It's called mass timber because it's a massive amount of timber, as
Exactly.
you can see here.
Yeah, unstoppable. And you can smell it as well.
That's why I encourage my clients not to put any stain or paint onto the wood, to leave it as natural as possible. It feels like sitting under a tree with all the wood around you, and then the nature out there is just coming right through the windows in here, so yeah.
And you've thought about what's next as well, like afterlife.
We really want to make sure that our buildings or our components for the buildings don't create any extra garbage for future generations. So a building like this will last 100, 200 years. And after that, it's easy to take apart. The individual pieces can take apart down to the single 2x6. But I don't know why somebody wants to take it down a building like this. So maybe it is still here in 300 years.
I think so. We should come back and see.
Exactly, yeah.
Nia, how's all this working for you?
Well, working in such an open space with so much greenery, close to nature, definitely instills a sense of biophilia. And not only does it inspire creativity, it also uplifts the mood quite a bit.
Mike, let me tell you something interesting that happened from this project. We are working with people like Grandview Glass and working them early, using their expertise to help make better projects.
And I understand your workspace here, you've got a name for it.
I've nicknamed it the Tree House. And at this time of year, you can see all the leaves and you really feel like you're up in the trees. When those fall down and in the wintertime, you get to look out and see vistas of the mountains, and It's just a very inspiring space to be.
Now, Ross, you're the builder on this, and I smell trouble with this project because the architect was also the client. I'm not sure what I think about that.
Yeah, that's one of those things as contractors that we're always a little leery of. But that was never the case with Oneline Studio. We've done really successful projects in the past with them, and we knew they will just check their ego at the door.
And I understand you learnt quite a lot together.
Yeah, we learned that collaboration is so paramount in a project like this, where there's so many unique materials and how they go together needs to be seamless.
And I'm seeing a lot of timber, a lot of steel. They're not necessarily cooperative bedfellows.
It looks good on the end product, but it took a lot of work starting early on to be able to mesh all those parts and pieces together. We can now collaborate and bring in other prospective clients and show them what we can do together.
Well, it's a unique build.
Absolutely. It's not your grandfather's office building, nice and square.
No, it is not. This project is actually quite simple, made up of the 4 big boys: concrete, steel, glass, and timber. And those materials are often behind the scenes, but here they're celebrated and curated into an award-winning form.
At Harvard's Science and Engineering Complex, every inch is designed for innovation. From sun-catching screens to science-ready spaces, this building is shaping the future beautifully and sustainably. What an amazing building, but what is the philosophy that went into all this?
Well, this was really the first Harvard building in the Alston campus. So this was intended to be a very significant statement about Harvard's commitment to innovation, to engineering, as well as to the community and to the city of Boston.
When I look up at this building, I can't help but notice this incredible steel facade.
This is a highly engineered facade that performs at a number of levels. It's actually improving the daylight quality that comes into the interior and cutting down on the solar radiation, which helps us manage the cooling loads.
Beautiful and functional.
Exactly.
This place just explodes upwards.
Yes, this is the central atrium, which is a very important design element for the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, creating a community space, a place where they could gather, as well as create a visual connection between floors.
And I love how you kind of get a hint of what's happening on every floor.
A space like this is really good for bringing daylight into the building and allowing it to permeate all the different parts of the building. You can see that we use these stainless steel meshes that are fabricated by a firm called Carl Stahl. That's a very light and transparent material and allows daylight and views to really pass over that.
As open as all this is, it still feels kind of warm and cozy.
We worked with our partners at Pioneer Moldworks to develop these white oak banquette and seating areas that give a clue to people where they should sit and gather and create sub-areas within the atrium.
So Matt, this building is of course really striking and beautiful, but it's also really sustainable.
One of the things that we really wanted to pursue here was this idea of integrated sustainability, so that we're letting the technical side influence and inform the architecture, and the architecture influence and inform the sustainable solutions. A good example of that is the research labs generate a lot of waste heat that we need to exhaust. So we use a very sophisticated heat recovery system called Convecta to recapture that heat and bring it back into the building for use elsewhere.
So you take the heat from science to heat the building?
Correct, exactly.
It's a test bed, and we really leveraged our faculty and students, and everything you see in these interior spaces, we really specified to get rid of harmful chemicals, like forever chemicals or chemical flame retardants, by working with manufacturers. Now we are applying that research to doing this for a public school project, because these products are resilient and don't cost more.
Pilot, prove, scale. We've been talking about how we have all these great open environments, but now we have this smaller, more intimate space.
this is a faculty office in a building that teaches students and conducts research. Those are always important spaces, and we wanted to have those in relationship to the public areas, the atrium and the corridors, so that students know where to find their professors. A big part of that is the transparency of the walls. Another big part of that is creating sound insulation so that these offices can be private and private conversations can occur inside of them. Larry's company, Pinello, was a real partner to coming up with the solutions for that.
This door doesn't look like a normal door to me.
This door system, although it appears to be simple, had a lot of customization that went into it. One of the things we did was we wrapped it with all of our panels, which get you to a very high STC. Our doors are typically 4 inches thick. We add another 3 inches to accommodate the drapery system. With this door, as we close it, you get a very tight seal and now a very privately acoustic space. At the end of the day, we have a system that's easily customized, but at the same time very robust, high sound insulation, and solid performance.
This happens to be the Human Motion Capture Lab, where researchers are studying the properties of human motion. And so you see in this room a whole suite of equipment that allows them to very precisely model that. You can see that this floor that we're standing on, which feels very stable, is actually raised up 24 inches so that all the cabling and the electronics can be concealed, but the floor itself is still remarkably stable because a lot of times that movement involves running, jumping, leaping, and this Nora rubber flooring product provides a very precise traction control. It allowed us to work with different colors so that we could map out the areas of the track.
I need one of these for my home. You can't have a college without having a library.
That's true. As you know, though, the definition of library in the university context has changed a lot over the last several years. It's not any longer a storage house for books so much as a learning center. Here at the Science and Engineering Complex, what we tried to do was imagine the library as a range of different types of spaces supporting people's different needs and desires for collaboration.
And you even still do have a book locker.
You can get any book delivered here from Widener within 24 hours.
Love it. From the facade to the diverse labs inside, Harvard's SEC proves that design can do so much more. Here, architecture doesn't just house science, it accelerates it.
The interiors of BARDAVID really sparkle. This cloud-like ceiling that sort of hangs down with beautiful light fixtures and slats of wood is just a gem of a space.
We're at the Midway Plaisance at the edge of the University of Chicago, a place with a heritage for innovation, with leading-edge conversation and discourse happening at the David Rubenstein Forum. BARDAVID is a wonderful space that meets people navigating that nexus with great bites and amazing drinks.
Before the forum, there was no real consolidated space. They had space, but they didn't have a whole lot of land. So instead of going horizontal, they went vertical.
I couldn't help when I walked up to the building, just the scale of the architecture, this layer cake of modules.
Yeah, what you see is the stacking of these boxes, and each one of those boxes holds a different type of meeting space. But outside, companies host events here, dignitaries. Barack Obama has been here giving speeches every once in a while.
Oh, I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, have you? Yeah, he's a local favorite of ours. Each one of the rooms also pairs with an informal space so that you can spill out after the actual event. So BARDAVID fit the niche. It was programmed so that you could come after a day of networking and unwind, hang out with your colleagues, or you could have a celebratory drink. That was BARDAVID.
Well, I've heard great things about the cocktails. I can't wait to try one.
Yes, we will try one, maybe two.
Whoa, what a striking contrast. Very warm and inviting compared to the neutrality of the rest of the building.
Yeah, and that was the point. This was supposed to be a space that provided a cozy and intimate atmosphere. You have the tones of the wood, the walnut wood ceilings, you have the marble, you have the softness of all the furniture, the soft but deep blues throughout the space, all adding to that kind of sense of comfort and intimacy.
Well, it feels really cozy, and I imagine you're working with a smaller envelope of space versus some of the vast open spaces that we saw above.
Right, right. So we are only working with 2,000 square feet here. Not a lot of space, but there was certainly a desire to have this used for a multitude of dining experiences or even events. So it had to be flexible enough to do that.
I take it that all these pieces can move around?
Yeah, flexibility was key here. The space is used throughout the day. They have lunch service, have dining service, they have bar service. And so it's important to have this relationship of while you're dining on the inside or enjoying the inside to have a relationship with the outside, because the bar sits along the midway plaisance. And so it's a really nice view to kind of capture a little bit of nature while you're dining, but also from an outside-in perspective, if you're like an onlooker walking down the plaisance, you can have a little glimpse and glimmer all the sparkling lights that are happening on the inside and the activities that are happening in here.
So 2,000 square feet, not a lot of space to work with, but as I walk through in these specific areas, I do feel your design intentions coming out.
In this case, because tables and seats may move around, we didn't have that ability to just have these centerpiece lights. So instead, we devised a cloud of lights. And so what you see here is about 540 lights that are hovering above the diners. And we worked very closely with our lighting designers, Polymath Design, to kind of work out all the details of how this might hang and float above you.
I understand there wasn't a lot of elevation to play with in creating this design.
That was also limited as well. So the lights weave into this walnut wood ceiling system, which was custom designed by 9 Wood. That beautiful walnut covers a lot of the things above it, including the framework for the lighting grid, and then you had to have your HVAC, all your ductwork, your pipes, your fire suppression system. All that is tucked in there, but on the outside, you just get the sparkle of lights to enjoy. Something else that maybe you enjoy but don't really notice is how the rhythm of the ceiling is actually distributed throughout the rest of the space and all the details too. You'll see things like the screens around the banquettes weaving through the ceiling system. You see the kind of ribbing and finishes on the walls that get down to the ribbing of the banquettes and into the custom furniture. You have the proportions of your seats by Haute Living that also work with the proportions of the space. All these elements are basically working in concert with each other, amplifying the elegance and sophistication of the space.
BARDAVID weaves together many compelling elements to create an attractive destination for thought leaders, companies, and administrators. We're looking at a space that dynamically adapts to the needs of the day, fueled by smart design and a whole lot of ingenuity. Now, I'm finally ready for that drink. Jarrell, can you help me out? Thank you, sir. That's incredible. Cheers.
We hope you've enjoyed our look at some of the finest architectural designs from around America. Join us next time for more groundbreaking architecture on America by Design. For more information on any of the projects featured in this series, go to bydesign.global.